What's good? Welcome to the Loophole channel. This video is going to be the first in a new series that I'm starting, where basically I'm going to be showing you how to design sounds from scratch in the style of a certain artist or group of artists. I don't actually have a name for this series yet. Hopefully I should have one by the time I'm uploading this video. But what I'm going to do is maybe create 3 sounds from scratch in the style of that artist and then create a short sample out of it. I'll probably put the sample in the description, a link to it in the description, along with the 3 presets that I make for the sample. This video is going to be focusing on Drake and PARTYNEXTDOOR and the kind of OVO R&B sound that they've created together with, like, you know, Roy Woods, Division, etc. But let me know down in the comments who you want to see in the next video. I'm thinking maybe Kanye, considering Thunder 2 is maybe coming up. You never really know with Kanye, but yeah, let's get into this video. So when I'm designing sounds in synths, I generally like to use MIDI because then I get a good sense of how the synth sound is going to sound in the context in which I'm making it. For this sound, I think I'm going to go for something similar to Friends by Division featuring PARTYNEXTDOOR. It's got this kind of atmospheric tone. It's still relatively bright, but I think I'm going to filter it out a little bit. I've made a MIDI progression that sounds good within this OVO R&B context, and I'm going to use the Jupiter. The Jupiter is one of my favorite synths to use. You get a really nice synthy sound. So the first thing I'm going to do is make that sound really full. It sounds like this right now, which already sounds really full, but just to increase that, I'm going to introduce some more fine tune up here, just to make it a little bit more dissonant, but then also that means it's going to sound a bit more full. Compare that to where it was before. Next thing I'm going to do is definitely take the cutoff down. And I'm going to turn up the keyboard follow. It's a little bit complicated, but essentially what it means is instead of just having a static filter, the filter is going to move according to which keys I'm pressing on the synth. So let's pull this up a bit, and then we get this sound. And then in context with the MIDI, it sounds like this. Next thing I want to do is add a bit of vibrato. To do that, I'm going to use the LFO to affect the pitch. Let's see, I definitely don't want to go past half a semitone, but let's just pull it down until I like the sound. Great, that sounds good so far. I think also what I want to do is fade the sound in a little bit, just so it doesn't come in so suddenly like this. So I'm just going to pull this up here and pull this up here, and then also pull up the release a little bit, just so we get a bit more of an atmospheric sound instead of just suddenly cutting out. I also want a little bit of a gliding sound in between chords. To do that, I'm going to introduce some portamento. It's just this wheel down here. Instead of jumping from chord to chord like this, we're going to get it a bit more like this. So you see how that glided up instead of just jumping from one to the other. If you want a proper tutorial on portamento kind of sine R&B keys, I'll leave a link just above here to check that out if you want to. It's a very short video, so, you know, watch that if you want to come back. That's going to sound like this in context. The final thing I want to do is add some variation using the mod wheel, because right now this is a bit filtered, but the Friends sound from the song was a bit more bright. So I want, without using the mod wheel, it to be a bit more dark, a bit more filtered, and then when I pull up the mod wheel, for it to be a lot more bright. So I'm going to pull down the cutoff to maybe about here, so then we get this sound. And then to introduce some mod wheel action, I just need to turn it up so you can see that down here. Right now, when I turn up the mod wheel, it sounds like this, which introduces some more vibrato. So to turn that off, I'm just going to pull this to the off. And then to change it, I'm going to go to keyboard and then mod wheel and affect the cutoff frequency. So because I've got the mod wheel pulled all the way to the top, what we're going to do is determine the maximum that the mod wheel is affecting the sound using this wheel here. So I'm just going to press one key. Sounds like this. So now we've got these two extremes. The final thing I want to do to this sound is add a couple of effects. The first effect I want to add is definitely a reverb, just to add some more atmosphere to the sound, play into this whole, atmospheric OVO type sound. So let's go to reverb. What I like to do generally with effects is pull the dry wet slider to 100% wet and then create a sound that I really like, and then tone down the dry wet slider until I get, a combination that I really like. So let's play this, and then I'm going to tweak this until I like the sound. Great, so I like how that sounds now, and then I'm just going to add a chorus to finish it off. The next sound I want to make is a kind of reversed pad. So to do that, I'm going to use the Prophet. So let's just go to the Prophet here. The Prophet is great for pads, especially full sounding rich pads using sawtooth waves, which is what we're going to do. I'm going to use a sawtooth wave and I think maybe a triangle wave. So to do that, I need to engage the second oscillator. Just going to turn this up. And I think what I want to do is pull this up an octave and then pull down the cutoff initially. Just pull this down, maybe introduce a tiny bit of noise just to make the sound a little bit less clean, which I always like. Okay, so what I want to do to get this reversed feeling is change the amplifier envelope. So we get a really long attack, maybe 2.5 seconds or so, and then pull up the release slightly, but we still want it very short because we want this kind of fading in sound to cut out suddenly, which is what we're going to get with any kind of reverse sound, especially like a reverse piano or a reverse synth. We always get this slow build up and then a sudden drop off. So we've got this reversed feel, but I want to make that even more obvious. So to do that, I'm going to do a similar thing that I did to the loudness using the filter cutoff. So I want the filter to start very low down so you can barely hear it. So that sounds like this. So you can barely hear that at all. And then what I want to do is introduce some envelope amount, which is going to engage this envelope here. If you want to learn more about sound design, just click the link above. It will take you to the Sonics trailer. I recommend you check it out. It will be worth your while if you really want to get into learning how to create sounds from scratch. But I'm just going to pull this up here, maybe even more, maybe to something like 4.5 seconds. Pull the sustain up, and then again, drop the release down really quick. So let's hear how that sounds now. Great, so we're getting exactly the sound that we wanted. I'm just gonna add a couple of effects. I mean, there are only 2 effects here, but I'm gonna use both of them. The chorus for the Prophet sounds amazing, so I'm just gonna pull that up, see how that sounds. I love how that sounds. I'm just gonna introduce some delay as well, pull up the feedback as well, and then actually maybe not that loud. Maybe to something like 15%. Let's hear how that sounds, just to give it a bit more atmosphere. Great, I love how that sounds. Both of these sounds layered together sounds like this. I'm just going to tweak the MIDI of the Prophet slightly, and then I'm going to add a bass, I think using the MIDI. So I'm pulling up the MIDI now. I've created a simple bass MIDI pattern, but I'm not going to play that yet because this sounds way too high in the octave range. So I press a middle C will sound like this, which is way too high. So I'm going to drop this a couple of octaves down to here. There we go. That's definitely the octave range, but it's still way too buzzy. What I want to do is introduce a couple more oscillators. So to do that, I'm just going to pull these up here. And then I want these both tuned to the 16 instead of the 8 or the 32, just so we've got this low range here, and then we've got a couple more oscillators the octave above, just to make it a bit more thick sounding. To make it even more thick sounding, I'm going to introduce some more fine tune. So this is going to go down below by about 15%, and I want this one to go above by 15%. To do that, I'm just holding down the right click and dragging. So now instead of that single buzzy sound, we get this sound, which is really, really powerful. Now to make it more of that OVO typical smooth synth bass, what I'm going to do is definitely pull down the cutoff frequency. I want to pull down this amount of contour as well. So now we get this sound. I don't like that click sound, so I'm just going to pull this up a little bit, just so it fades in very slightly. And then pull up the decay time as well, just so it doesn't click in as well. And then also pull up the glide to maybe about 5-ish, as opposed to this. And maybe pull it up to about 5.5. That's almost done, I think. I just want to add a slight bit of chorus, just so we get about that much. Great. So that's our bass sound, I think. In the context with the other two, it sounds like this. I think what I'm going to do is maybe just process it a little bit and then stick it in a sample, and then obviously I'll put that in the description below along with the 3 presets that I made in this video. But that's the video. Let me know who you want to see done in the next video in the comments. I might make it so whoever gets commented the most I'll feature in the next video, so make sure you let me know. Other than that, don't forget to subscribe, click the notification bell to see when we next upload, but I'll see you in the next video.